These three conservatives got served by a liberal waitress, and this happened.
But before we start, please take a moment to give this video a like, subscribe to Happy World, and hit the bell so you'll never miss these great stories.
In today's unstable world, discrimination and hate between races seems to be on the rise again. The recent elections in America found a lot of African Americans and Hispanic people dissatisfied and scared for the future. One of those people is the waitress of our story that was having a casual day at the restaurant she was working when three white conservatives walk in. Her story will make you go, "What?" African Americans and white conservatives surely have their differences, and they try to coexist in the same country, sharing every aspect of it. The African American waitress was having a normal day at work when three white conservatives stepped in. She felt uncomfortable with their presence but understood that she had to do her job nonetheless. She put up a smile and walked to their table to take their order. Although the three conservatives turned out to be friendly and polite with the waitress, she didn't set her hopes up for a big tip. She knew those people were supporters of Trump, and given his views, a tip from that table was a far-fetched dream. While the men were there, the waitress had some petty thoughts. She assumed that every Trump supporter was the same, and she found herself prejudiced. When the men left, the African American waitress went to clean up the table and collect the money. The cultural differences between both parties are great. Taking into consideration the history of America regarding racism and discrimination against African Americans, she had every right to be preoccupied with those thoughts. But when she eventually walked to the table, she was surely surprised. The three men left a big tip, and the waitress couldn't believe her eyes. It made absolutely no sense to her, and she thought it was a mistake. The three men left her an astonishing tip of $450. The waitress now demanded some answers as she couldn't connect the pieces of the puzzle and started questioning her own sanity. It was then that she noticed that the check had a note for her. One of the men wrote on the check a note. "We may come from different cultures and may disagree on certain issues, but if everyone would share the smile and kindness like your beautiful smile, our country will come together as one people. Not race, not gender, just American. God bless." The man's action was incredibly altruistic and surely generous. She later learned that the message was written by the conservative named Jason White, who later stated that he was inspired by his trip to Washington, D.C. But how are these connected? Find out next. The man felt inspired by spending time in Washington, D.C. and visiting all the landmarks in it, and on top of that, being served by a kind African American waitress moved him. It was his way to say thank you to her for her service, as she treated them like everyone else. As I sat there, I thought about the entire weekend, and I thought, I don't know her, she doesn't know me, White said. But if most Americans have a preconceived perception about people, then we're never gonna get better. This generous action totally made the waitress reconsider some things. She realized that she mustn't judge a book by its cover either. Not every conservative is the same. Little did White know how this action would inspire the young waitress, nor how much she needed the money. It is actions like these that break the barriers between opposing parties. But the story doesn't end there. The waitress, moved by the kind words in the note and, of course, the great tip, took out her phone and took a photo. Later, she decided to post it on the internet, and you can guess what happened. For her good fortune, the story went viral and reached many people, both conservatives and liberals, as the comment section showed. It was a story needed to decrease to an extent the hate between the parties. The waitress, of course, stated that she was extremely helpful as she really needed the money and thanked Jason via the internet, hoping the story would reach him. Busboys and Poets is the restaurant that our story took place in, and after the events it became a famous spot and a symbol against discrimination in the city. The waitress was a different person. She completely abandoned any hatred and shame she had until then, realizing that every American is an American, like Jason stated in the note, and things are getting better in the country. The story, of course, made the news, and soon her story reached more people, something that satisfied some of the few misunderstood Trump supporters, and of course African American communities as well. The moral of the story is summed up in what Jason said. Every American is an American, and people should learn to abandon every prejudice and hate for past events for the sake of a better tomorrow.